My name is Cindy. This is how I survived the toy box killer. My childhood was not a very normal childhood. When I was 14, my mother had passed away and I got left to fend for myself on the streets. I had already knew how to deal with the streets because from 12 to 14, I was with my mom every day and every night on the streets. And so when she got killed and I had nobody, I turned to selling drugs, prostitution, other hustling out on the streets just to survive. With the stuff I had to do, I turned to drugs. It turned into a different kind of nightmare. Stuff I wouldn't have done when I wasn't on drugs and rules I would have followed, I didn't follow because of the drugs. The morning that I was kidnapped, one of the rules I would have followed if I wasn't on drugs was not get into a van, an RV, and I got into the RV. I kind of felt safe because a friend took me to him and got $20 and already been with him. When I got in the RV, we made the deal, went to the back of the RV. He gave me the money and he pulled out a badge and told me I was under arrest. Put a handcuff on my wrist. When he put the handcuff on my wrist, I was like, "You're not a cop." I knew something was wrong. I tried to get away. When I was almost at the door to get away, he yelled, "Cindy." And Cindy's not a name I gave him. I had two different names out there, which Cindy was one of them and Crystal was one of them. I had given him the name Crystal. So when he yelled Cindy, I kind of paused. And when I paused, a lady came out from behind a curtain and she shot me at the cattle prod in my neck. And that knocked me down. And they were able to get both handcuffs on my wrist, both of my wrists, and they pulled me back to the RV. And when they pulled me back, they connected the handcuffs to cabinets. And they got in the front seat and they started driving off. As they were driving off, I was able to get the handcuffs off of the cabinet door. And I was waiting for them to slow down enough so I could jump out through the window or try to break out the door. But that did not happen. For some reason, he had to stomp on the brakes and I tumbled over. And when he realized I tumbled over and I was loose, they pulled over. Well, she jumped through the middle part of she came through the middle part of the seats and grabbed me right away. And I had my hands behind my back. And he pulled over and they had a gun and they took all my clothes off. They put duct tape around my face, around my mouth. One point they cut the duct tape off my face. I was begging her and asking her if they were going to let me go. And she just kept telling me, "You'll be fine, you'll be fine." They had mentioned another girl from the streets. She goes, "You know her, right?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Well, she's safe. You're going to be okay." So I calmed down a little bit. She's like, "We're just going to take you out of ways and rape you, have our way with you and let you go." Well, the ride never seemed like it was stopping. I was like, "Well, how far do you need to go out?" They stopped at another point and they shackled my feet, handcuffed me, all my clothes were off, and they were trying to make me drink this liquor, this hot damn liquor, and I kept spitting it back out, and he was getting angry with me, and I would not drink it. I think I wasted most of the bottle spitting it back on them, and they stopped again, but I knew they were putting gas at this point. But she stayed in the RV with me with a gun to my head so I wouldn't yell. So after putting gas, we drive for about 20 minutes more, and we stopped, and they walked me from the RV into the trailer, and I'm looking around, and there's other trailers around me. And I'm like, how has nobody seen me? They get me into the trailer, they walk me through the living room and down these steps, and they sit me on this bed, and he puts a metal collar around my neck. And then it's padlocked with a big chain, and he padlocks that to this pole on the wall. And he handcuffs my hands above my head to the headboard and my feet to the feetboard. And they go about their day like it's normal. They grab something to eat, they sit down and talk, they're walking around the house like it's nothing. I'm totally panicking. I'm looking around the house and there's upside down crosses. There is notes all over the walls. It says, "Never trust a chained captive." They will lie to you. They will say that they have kids waiting for them. Rules that he kept all over the place on the walls, I guess to remind him. He came up to me and he told me I needed to listen to this tape. Yeah, it was an audio recording, and it started off his voice calling me, saying hello bitch, and that I was picked because of my size, my body shape.
Undoubtedly, someone's going to be looking for you. They don't have any idea where you're at. You don't even know where you're at. We're always very careful about that. There are not going to be any knights in shining armor coming to rescue you. You are strictly on your own, and under the circumstances, I bet that is a scary thought.
It just said a lot of stuff, and that I was going to be tortured. I wasn't going to like what was going to happen to me, but I was going to learn to deal with it because I had no choice. I was his chained captive, and I would be there until he felt fit to let me go, if I was going to let go. I didn't know how long I was going to be there. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. After the video, she went in and made dinner. They went on about their day in the trailer like I wasn't even there. By that time, it was the evening time, like nighttime. It had grew dark. And so they made a bed on the living room floor, which the bed I was on was a little bit lower than the living room floor because it was an add-on to a trailer. And they laid on the floor and put on a movie, watched a movie, and went to sleep. Well, I was handcuffed right there next to him with no clothes on, no nothing. And they woke up in the morning. She made breakfast. She brought in a basket of clothes she cleaned. And then he hung me from the ceiling by my wrist. He spread my legs apart and beat me with whips, slashed my skin open. He really didn't talk to me much. At one point, I noticed that he got off on when I hurt and when I screamed or I was in a lot of pain. So I had to learn how to take myself out of that situation and not give in to his desire. So I had to learn how to take that pain and not squirm or cry or scream. And I know at one point he made a comment like, this bitch is getting it worse. He made a comment about me being stubborn. I didn't want to go out knowing I gave in and I was the weak one. The next morning came around and he was dressed like a cop, like a forest ranger or something. He had one of them jackets, it had the fur right here. And he sits on the bed and he told me, well, you've been a good girl. You haven't tried to escape. So this is your bathroom for the day. And he loosened the collar a little bit, not on my neck, but the chain to the wall. He loosened it a little bit, gave it more slack. And he took the handcuffs and shackles off me. And he put a bucket near the bed and he told me that was my restroom for the day. Kissed his girlfriend, hugged his girlfriend, and left to work. She was there with me and she was talking to me like I was a friend of hers because she was telling me about how she's trying to sell her trailer. She's waiting for a call, but she gets this phone call and she leaves to the back of the trailer. And I noticed that the keys that they had carried everywhere that unlocked me were left on the table. And the bed I was on and the living room floor, there was a little bit of a space, not a lot, but like the bed was 7 inches lower. But I was able to get the keys and by pulling the table to me with my feet. And I reached through the bars and got the keys and I pushed the table back with my foot, but it snagged on the carpet and went crooked. I curled up in a ball where the lock was at against the wall. And I was trying every key and it just seemed like nothing was opening it. And she came in and she seen I had the keys. At that point, I don't know where this ice pick came from, if she had it, if she stabbed me first or what. But I know I got beat with a lamp. I had been stabbed and the phone ended up on the bed with me. But the lock came loose and I got it unlocked. And when I got it unlocked, I picked up the phone and the ice pick and I dialed 911. I dropped the phone and I stabbed her and I stabbed her right here. And when she grabbed her head, I just jumped from the bed to the living room floor and I ran out the front door. I was naked. I had nothing on me but a metal collar around my neck. They called it a metal slave collar. I ran out the thing. She picked up the phone and hung it up. I guess she called David Parker Ray and told him I had escaped. And the 911 operator called her back and asked her what was going on. They had most of the fight on recording. And she said that everything was okay. The 911 operator did not believe her. So he dispatched officers out there. I had already ran As I was running up the road, up Bass Road, I didn't know where I was at. I did not know where I was at. I did not know what direction I was going. I didn't know where to go. I was just looking for somewhere that looked like somebody was there. And I ran right into this trailer, and the lady was doing dishes. And I busted in her door, and I grabbed her from behind and I asked her to help me. And I had no clothes on. And she goes, "Are you okay?" And she grabbed the phone and dialed 911. And I remember she sat me down on this white stool, and I was bloody and naked, and I left blood everywhere. And her husband came in, and her husband was in shock. He stopped at the door, and he couldn't move. He was like frozen. And she yelled at him to get me a robe. And she was like, "Get my pink robe, it's on the door." And he got it, and he brought it in. She covered me with the pink robe. And I was telling them that they were going to be looking for me. They were going to come and get me. And the man said that no one was going to hurt me again. And he had a gun, and he's like, "I promise you nobody's going to hurt you again." When the cops are coming up, they had the same jackets that he had on when he left to work. So I was like, no way. And I was telling them, "No, you're not coming inside, and I'm not going outside." And they were telling me it was okay that they were the cops. And I'm like, no, he was a cop too. And I seen this one state cop drive up, and it was something about his eyes, or I don't know. And I ran to him. I opened the door and I ran past every cop right to the state cop. And he took me to the hospital, and he stayed with me. Even after the other cop showed up, he stayed with me because I didn't feel safe at all. And then I remember hearing over the radio, I could hear that they had caught him and they were bringing her in for a stab wound. My panic level went. I was trying to leave. I didn't want to be there in the same hospital with her. And they told me everything would be okay. She wouldn't be in the same part of the hospital with me. And then I remember getting back to Albuquerque, and the next day, I just remember just news reporter after news reporter trying to contact me. It was all over the news. It was like, and it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as the days went on. They caught another person that was involved, which was his daughter. They caught another person that was involved, which was a male. They found videos of them killing women. They found video of women he had tortured, but they don't know what had happened to that lady, so they put the tattoo out that was visible in one of the videos. Before I knew it, it was a big giant snowball that it just landed right in the middle of my life. His daughter, she took Kelly Van Cleve to him. Kelly Van Cleve was drugged and did not remember nothing. He was trying to drug me with that same drug. I spit it on him so many times, and I think that's what frustrated him. The FBI told me that I was going to be killed because I wouldn't take the drug. I was actually kidnapped to be his sex slave while she went and flew to Seattle, Washington to be in her granddaughter's birth. I had to go through a preliminary hearing. It was a little different. I had to sit through telling my whole story. And then the judge decided if to charge him or not. So I had to relive it for that. And then I had to relive it for Kelly Van Cleve's trial. When my trial came up, he decided he did not want to go to trial against me. He wanted to plead out against me. He was acquitted on Kelly Van Cleve's case because they said that when her arms were freed, she covered her chest instead of fought them. The toy box killer, David Parker Ray, worked for the state park rangers at the lake. He was actually their mechanic, but he had access to everything. And the uniform was very, very similar to the state park rangers uniforms. His girlfriend, Cindy Hendy, she got, 36 years? And she only had to do 18 years. She's released. She's in Washington State, right outside of Seattle. She has to register as a sex offender, but there's different levels of sex offenders. So if they don't think you're going to reoffend, they don't put you on the list that people could see, but you still got to register. But you're not on the actual list that we could look up and see, and did half her time and got out. He got a hung jury. So they couldn't come up with a decision, so that had to go away. They were going to do my trial next and then redo Kelly Van Cleve's, and they gave him 224 years for everything he did to me. I don't even think he served 6 months and he died. He had died of a heart attack. My way of healing was, my first aha moment was in court. When I realized, even though he was locked up, I was still his victim. He was getting off on victimizing me. And when I was able to tell him in court, I'm not your victim, you're my victim now. I noticed his demeanor changed and I was able to let go of a lot. I stopped being his victim. I wasn't a victim no more. I was a survivor. And with realizing I was a survivor, I decided to start a nonprofit to help women. And so I got to talk to a lot of girls and I knew what was going on, if any were going missing. And at that time, a lot of women were going missing. I was like, I got to start something to keep track of these women because I would never have been reported missing. So if he would have killed me, no one would have cared. So I started Street Safe New Mexico to help these women get off the streets if they want to. We get them into motels if we have to. We get them clean clothes, condoms, a bad guy list. We work with the police department on putting serial rapists away. We put a couple serial rapists away. I share my story for the reason that I want women and men, because I've had men go through this too, anybody in general, I want them to know that because you've been through a crime, you're not a victim, you're a survivor. I run 2 nonprofits, Street Safe New Mexico and Dawn Legacy Point. Dawn Legacy Point is a little different. It helps anybody that is going through homelessness. We pass out clothes, blankets, we do cold weather outreaches, everything they need to start their new life. So my goals in life now are to keep my nonprofit up and going and to go into law school. I want to work with juvenile law. There's no rehabilitation if they're incompetent. And they cannot hold a juvenile after so many years, they got to throw them back out. If they didn't rehabilitate them and they throw them out at 18, that kid's life is over. And it's hard on parents, you know, and that's from firsthand knowledge. My son was killed. I had a son go to jail. And then right after that, I found out a serial killer killed my mom. It took 20 some years to tell me something that I kept telling the cops. They found out Samuel Little killed my mother. It never stops ending for me, but I cannot be a victim. I have to keep going. And I have to keep helping other people, because at the end of the day, there is people that suffer more than what I have gone through. And I can't boo-hoo for myself when there's people that are going through worse than me. I think it's everything I went through. I just learned how to be so resilient at a young age. You know, not having parents who give two shits about you, it just made me learn different and be different. Give me a hug.
Okay, kiss. Thank you.
The day I was supposed to go in and have him, my son got killed. I didn't give birth to him till 2 weeks later. And that's what got me through my son's death, was I had to be a mom to him. And so I think God gave him to me for a reason. I just want people to know that have been through something extreme, that just because they've been through something extreme does not mean they have to give up. Find the path that works for you. Take that path and work whatever works for you. Me, it was stop being the victim and quit letting people victimize me. That was my moment. Everybody has a different moment. It comes to them at different times. But there are people who care about you, and there are people that will walk by your side. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope you got something out of it. And if you want to reach out for any help, the links are below to contact my organization.